Hey, this is Dr. Andy, and I just wanted to take a moment to talk about, there's three major mistakes that I see people that they tend to make that limit their happiness and success in life. One of the ones is that people actively choose to go against the stream. I like to use the metaphor of rowing a boat, right? So instead of being able to row with the stream so that you are creating maximum kind of energy and traction, and you're making things a lot less hard on yourself, people actively make decisions that don't fit them, right? That don't reflect who they are, what they like to do, right? That excite them, that kind of fill them up. And they choose to do work or take on clients that create so much traction, like a resistance and drag, right? And then they force themselves to do that over and over again over a period of time. And that really lacks any sense of real autonomy. And again, over enough time, that can be soul draining, soul sucking. I don't mean to be overly dramatic on that, but I think back to a couple of clients that I've worked with, right? There was one who had a very successful social media company, and she had a client that she'd taken on that was, paying her the most amount of money. It was her biggest client, but this client had defined her values in the work that she had done with me. And despite the fact that she knew what they were, she knew that ideally she'd be using those values to guide the decisions that she made. She didn't apply that at all in saying whether or not this client was a good fit for her. And so she took it on because she just saw the big dollars. And it was very apparent, that it was a bad fit. This person created so much conflict, and it ended up spilling over into my client's life, and how it affected her health, how it affected her relationships, her marriage, her availability to her family. It was really substantial, like the ripple effect of working with this person. And yet she felt obligated, right? She had the sense of responsibility, which I fully get. But I was telling her there's a way for you to make decisions that stop rowing against the stream and the flow, where you can actually replace her, right? Make sure you take good care of her, get her hooked up with someone so that she feels well taken care of. You feel like you've been responsible with that and it feels good to you. But next time apply, right? Start working with clients where you're using your skills and you're doing it with people who align with what you care about, who share your sense of values. And you will find that you will get so much more done. You will be more successful. You will make more money, but you will do it with a lot less effort. And you will have a lot more energy available to you when you go home, right? To go and take care of your health and exercise and those things. And sure enough, that's exactly, it took quite a bit of convincing and work to get her to a place where she recognized, right? And it really only happened out of, crisis, out of a sense of her being in such a bad place that there was a moment of surrender. But when she finally let go and was able to release that client who really was not a great fit for her, and then she was able to choose, she found two clients that came on that together replaced the income of that one big client, but they were perfect fits for her, right? And she loved the work she did with them. It was so gratifying and fulfilling, and she didn't have to carry that work and that baggage with her back home. So, I think of another person, and this was when I had my podcast, I was releasing content around this stuff. And this person had been doing midwifery, had been delivering babies, and had done it for a long time. And the schedule and the hours of doing it, and the fact that they had some physical health issues, they just were sick of doing it, right? It wasn't enjoyable anymore. The work hours, the culture around it, everything about it. But she felt obligated again because there was a certain sense of responsibility. But it was very clear that this no longer fit her, right? It certainly didn't excite her. She had a vision, she had a passion for being able to write a book. And she also thought about how she could use her incredible amount of wisdom and knowledge to go and start teaching parents, right, about the options available to them so that parents could make informed decisions to have a birth experience, that was sacred, that was beautiful and autonomous to who they were. And so after listening to my content and having exchanged a few emails and done, a little bit of work together, she made that leap, right? Decided, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start writing my book. And she found this amazing job opportunity where she got a chance to do help, families and educate them and educate other doctors and, other midwives and things like that on, birthing options. And she got to do it mobile so that she could start to travel around and go visit her family who lives in different states, to visit her grandkids. She is so much happier now that she's found a work option that is a great fit for her. I had a conversation just yesterday. It was a good friend of mine who said, would you be willing just to talk with my son, as he's trying to figure out like what direction does he head? Does he go to school? Does he, just get a job and these things? So he's like, I help people with decision making. You figure out your identity, you figure out, kind of what matters to you, and it's amazing. Roy Disney said, with my core values firmly established, decisions are easy to make. And so I think it's more than that. It's more than just figuring out the values, but that's certainly a big piece of it. So I just spent a little bit of time with this young man, and he talked about how he's always hated school. It's never been a good fit for him. He's got some ADHD and things like that, and it feels like it creates so much drag. Yet in his mind, he had internalized that that's the path, right? That's what you do. You go to college, and you can't be successful without college. And yet, I know what he loves to do. And so I just had him look up, like, hey, if you look up, what are the requirements for that? Like, does it require that you have to have a degree, a master's degree, a doctorate? And sure enough, that wasn't the case. He doesn't need to get a degree, right? He can, with a diploma. The most important thing that he could do is start getting experience. And we found a couple of courses that he could do online where he is learning from people who are like succeeded at the highest level, and he can take direct classes from them, getting the most practical information and wisdom and experience. And he very well in the next year could be in a position he's actually starting to get paid for what he wants to do. You could see him light up as all of a sudden he started to realize he had options. He didn't have to choose a path that clearly wasn't a good fit for him. And yet I see people all the time, right, feel like I have to just keep doing this thing that really I don't enjoy. There's no sense of excitement. And, and again, I understand sometimes there is a sense that there's something noble in that you have responsibilities that you've got to meet. I just want to tell you that you can do both. You don't have to make that choose. It doesn't have to be an exclusive, right, one versus the other. When you start to get clear on who you are, right, and you start to just do a little bit of work to understand what are those things that are a great use of my strengths, that when I feel like I'm doing it has impact in the world, that I'm so motivated for, that's where you're gonna have your greatest success. All of a sudden you're swimming with the flow, and you'll find that you do your best work while also having time, energy, margin to go out and live your best life. So just wanna encourage people, I just wanted to come on here real quick and encourage, having had a couple of conversations and having these things on my mind, to help people to start to choose a life that actually reflects who you are. Like, stop doing things that aren't a good fit. Stop taking on clients, stop taking on projects, right? Stop, wasting your time with, groups or people who just clearly create a ton of resistance and friction and conflict, as opposed to when you suddenly get clear on who you are. Like, if I use the rowing the boat, right now, all of a sudden you've got a consistent sense of direction. You're going with the flow. You're using your strengths because you know what they are in the optimal way. It allows you to start to have more fun, right? And you start to look up instead of being overly worried about what am I doing? It feels clumsy and that you get to start to actually look up and look around and see who else is swimming in the same direction. What opportunities, right, are rowing in the same direction? And all of a sudden, then things start to get really, really good. So it's Dr. Andy Garrett, and appreciate. Hope everyone has an awesome weekend.